Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing K-pop groups that should or shouldn't have disbanded. There's been a lot going on in 2022. There are many groups whose fate hangs in the balance, and as we enter 2023, there are a lot of groups that are going to enter contract negotiations with their respective label to either renew or terminate their contracts. So for that reason, I wanted to go over some K-pop groups that I think should or shouldn't have disbanded. I know a lot of you probably won't listen to these disclaimers, especially if you stand any of these groups, but genuinely this video isn't meant to be hateful, and there are groups mentioned in this video that I like that I have a less than favorable opinion on regarding disbandment. What this video is meant to do is look at these two types of groups. The first type is groups that have disbanded and assess whether or not disbandment was the right choice for them. The second type is groups who are currently together, at least on paper, and whether or not they should disband. This will mainly consist of groups who are highly anticipated to disband in the future, or at least have had pretty fervent disbandment rumors. Honestly, these aren't groups I'm hoping will disband or that I'm happy disbanded. I picked these groups simply because of their history and the debate regarding disbandment that surrounds a lot of them. Honestly, I feel like this is a hot take, but I'm glad I.O.I disbanded. As much as people love them, I feel like I.O.I was only good for some members of the group. For example, Wonyoung, who is arguably the most popular member to come out of I.O.I. Yes, I.O.I was undeniably a successful group with strong sales and digitals. I'm not arguing with that. What I'm arguing is that several of the members were overshadowed and pushed to the side. Don't get me wrong, I believe I.O.I served its purpose well. But there were so many members, and because it was a group essentially formed out of the popular vote, it was inevitable that several members would fall to the wayside. Ultimately, I.O.I had one purpose, like all groups formed on survival shows do: to get you acquainted with the members. They served their purpose well, and it was time for the members to move on to their permanent careers. I know many people who actively stan them feel connected to the group, but from the perspective of an outsider, there wasn't really a good reason for them to stay together, in my opinion. I.O.I was always meant to be temporary, meaning they were always going to disband. The purpose of I.O.I was to introduce members of the group to the general public and give you a taste of their abilities before they inevitably split and start their own separate careers, whether that be in another group, as a soloist, as an actress, etc. Like I said, while they likely would have continued to pull in decent sales and numbers had they stayed together, I don't think I.O.I was letting a lot of the members realize their full potential, especially in a group that big. Keeping I.O.I together would have been great for some members, but others would have continued to be background characters. IVE and LE SSERAFIM are doing extremely well, and it genuinely feels like their full potential is coming out, especially with Sakura in particular, whose talent is no longer constantly being questioned the way it was in I.O.I. And this is not meant to insult I.O.I in any way. Produce 48 and I.O.I served their purpose well, but I genuinely believe I.O.I disbanding was the best decision for certain members. Post-I.O.I groups are doing significantly better than post-I.O.I groups, so it's not as if all the members are pursuing lackluster careers. We can remember I.O.I fondly without pushing for the group to stay together past their expiration date. And seeing as 4 of the members of I.O.I are in 2 of the most popular groups currently, the push for I.O.I to re-debut compared to I.O.I is significantly less. I wish this was an alternate universe where I.O.I was a permanent group, because what happened to them might be one of the worst examples of wasted potential I've ever seen. I know some of you might think I'm a hypocrite for what I just said about I.O.I, but in my defense, if you compare the results of post-I.O.I members to post-I.O.I members, it's clear that all of them were doing much better in I.O.I. It's a general consensus amongst K-pop fans that post-I.O.I groups are failures. Daya and Gugudan are disbanded, Uju Sonyo and Wiki Miki aren't pulling in any significant accomplishments, and Pristin, the one group with seemingly the most potential, disbanded after 2.5 releases. As for the other members, Somi and Chungha are doing fairly well, but honestly their solo careers aren't anything to write home about, and they're significantly less popular than they were in I.O.I. The members who went down the actress road seem to be doing okay, with Sejong definitely being the most popular out of all of them. But honestly, for what a powerhouse I.O.I was during their run, the results of their careers post-I.O.I are lackluster at best. They had the ability to compete with TWICE during 2016, which if you were around or at least know anything about K-pop in 2016, you know TWICE was dominating in every way. To be clear, I'm not demanding I.O.I reunite and re-debut in the current day, though I think a reunion concert would spark interest. I just think that I.O.I should have been a permanent group from the start, and their collective fall from grace was especially brutal to watch. Now, this is going to be especially controversial. Blinks, cover your ears, I guess. I genuinely don't mean this on any hater shit, but Blackpink should disband. I honestly don't think they have a future as a group beyond the 7-year contract they signed with YG, and frankly, it doesn't seem like the members want to remain a group. I said this in a podcast episode over on Patreon, but the only word I can really use to describe Blackpink's comebacks and music at this point is obligatory. They are contractually obligated to come back and release music, and that is what it feels like. There are no other feelings of excitement or anticipation there. Additionally, based on the backlash they've gotten for their stage presence and effort on their current world tour, it really does not seem like they want to be doing what they're doing anymore. And even if I'm wrong and they do actually want to renew and stay together as a group, I feel like it would be beating a dead horse. I highly doubt that if they renew, there will be an increase in comebacks and group activities, and I predict that if they do renew, things will be slightly more stagnant than they are now. Say a comeback every 3 years instead of every 2, and the members will probably continue their solo endeavors. And finally, I just don't think Blackpink is going to get any bigger than they are now. Blackpink is one of the few groups that I genuinely believe has reached their peak. With the inconsistency in comebacks and how stagnant they've become musically, I think that they have become as big as they'll ever be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really do feel that Blackpink as a group has gone as far as they're going to go, and renewing their contract as a group would be pointless. I believe in previous years that they genuinely loved being idols and wanted to continue as a group, but I really don't get that feeling from them anymore, and it seems like the members have other paths they want to go down. I can already see Jennie creating her own clothing brand post-disbandment, Jisoo pursuing an acting career, Lisa featuring on songs with K hip-hop artists and doing some fashion shows now and then, and Rose possibly going on to a solo career and being a guest judge in Mnet's next survival show. I can very vividly picture their post-disbandment activities because it really doesn't look all that different from what they do when they don't have group activities. I just can't imagine that renewing their contract would mark a new era for Blackpink in terms of success and musical quality. If you had asked me in 2019 if they should disband, I would have told you no. But now in 2022, I think disbanding was the only choice left for them. Maybe it's just me, but looking back on it now, 2019 was truly CLC's last chance for success as a group. There was renewed interest in them, they got their first win, and they were releasing music fairly regularly. Obviously, Kpop hindered them throughout their existence as a group. I don't deny that, but I really feel like any hope they had for pulling a 180 in terms of popularity, or at least becoming a B or C list third-gen girl group, withered away after 2019. The traction they got with No wasn't maintained after 2019, and after that, I don't think anything they released would have gotten the same attention. As I said, obviously a lot of this is Kpop's fault, and a lot of struggles CLC has gone through start at the very beginning. But disbandment was really the only option left for them at this point, and by fans' reactions, it seems like everyone knew this was coming, and it seems people are less bothered by their disbandment, and more upset that Kpop failed CLC time after time since debut. I don't like that they did a soft disbandment and left fans with essentially nothing to show for how they supported CLC throughout the years, but disbandment was inevitable, and it seems like that's the consensus amongst most people. To this day, X1 still holds many records for 4th-gen boy groups. They easily would have been the top 4th-gen boy group had they stayed together, which they absolutely should have. I know they had the rigging scandal, but so did I.O.I, and they bounced back from that. The same easily could have been done with X1 had contracts been signed and had the members' individual companies not chosen to back out. Not all of the members are in their respective flop boy group, with the exception of a couple soloists who aren't doing any better either. X1 genuinely had potential. It was honestly sad to see the plug pulled on them so quickly. There seemed to be very little effort put into keeping them together as a group, despite the good results they were already getting. Now this one is definitely going to be controversial, and if you're a buddy, it's almost guaranteed you'll disagree with this. I know a lot of people were shocked and upset by Gfriend's disbandment at first. I was definitely shocked as well. However, now that the wounds of disbandment have healed somewhat, I genuinely can't really see where Gfriend was going to go from Mago. I know their fans always bring up the fact that Mago brought them substantial international attention, but number one, People overestimate the amount of success Mago brought them. They were gaining popularity amongst international fans, but they didn't have an unbelievable chart reversal that would have shot them up to the top of the charts domestically and internationally. It was simply a comeback that revived some interest in the group. Every group has one. It shouldn't be taken as potential for a chart reversal. Like I said, see CLC for proof of that. Number 2, knowing Source's pattern with Gfriend's concept, it was only a matter of time before they started going back to releasing music like Time for the Moon Night and Sunrise. Every time they would experiment with their sound, Source would essentially get too nervous that they were being too experimental and go back to the sound most people knew Gfriend for, which a lot of people had already lost interest in. It was stagnant and boring, and the switch from that to their last 2 comebacks, Apple and Mago, were what got people's attention. And like I said, it was unlikely Source was going to continue down the path, seeing how they had backed away from giving Gfriend more versatility in the past. And I know it may seem like I'm justifying their disbandment after the fact, but a lot of people were concerned about Gfriend's future as a group long before it was announced that they were going to disband, and a surprising amount of people predicted their disbandment years before it happened. As horribly as their disbandment was handled by Source, I think many of us may have missed the writing on the wall. Gfriend had failed to have a domestic hit in years. They definitely weren't competing with the big 3 girl groups the way they used to, and even 4th gen groups were starting to outshine them. And now post-disbandment, it's not like Viviz is doing that well either. And like I said earlier, with Source's pattern when it comes to experimenting with Gfriend's concept, it was highly unlikely they were going to continue on the path Mago was taking them down, meaning they wouldn't have sustained the interest international fans had taken in them. Had Source revamped Gfriend's image earlier, say 2018 or 2019, Gfriend might still be around. But realistically, when I think about what Gfriend might have gone on to do had they not disbanded, I don't see them doing or releasing anything all that interesting. And at this point, I think Gfriend would have stuck around for the sake of their fans. I hate to say it, especially because Gfriend has a special place in my heart, but if Source had handled their disbandment better, I don't think people outside of their fan base would really care that they had disbanded. Chu leaving the group was the official sign of the beginning of the end for Loona, but there were unofficial signs for years now that Loona was going to be short-lived. If you can believe it, there was a period of time in which many orbits regarded BBC as a great company, but pretty quickly the cracks began to show. At first, it was less serious concerns, typically things most fans complain about regarding their favorite groups, such as failing to promote their comebacks properly. Then it turned into bigger worries such as financial scares, delayed comebacks, and hiatuses. Regardless, Loona was still seeing success despite their management leaving much to be desired. And then Chu started talking. Officially, Chu was kicked out of Loona due to rumors of her being mean to staff members. But for those of you who don't know, it is extremely likely that these claims are just a cover and retaliation due to Chu speaking out about BBC's poor treatment and Chu suing BBC earlier this year in order to obtain a better contract and working conditions. Chu revealed numerous instances of BBC treating her poorly, such as not getting paid for her work, failing to provide her with adequate resources in order to perform her job properly, such as lack of transportation, Chu paying out of her own pocket for her birthday event, and Chu not being informed of group activities. Chu has also not participated in group schedules for some time now, as she did not participate in their concerts in Seoul, nor did she participate in their world tour earlier this year. And now it's being speculated that this was a purposeful attempt to exclude Chu by BBC as retaliation. Chu is one of the most popular members of Loona overall, and for sure the most popular member domestically, meaning that if she's not getting paid, it's highly unlikely the other members are either. And it seems like this was the last straw for them, considering that of the remaining 11 members, 9 of them have filed an injunction to terminate their contract with BBC. At the time of this video being posted, their fans are boycotting their upcoming comeback because none of the money made from album sales or activities will go to the members of Loona. Ultimately, it's no longer a question of if Loona will disband, but when. And while this is extremely heartbreaking, it's unfortunately for the best given the situation they're in. Who knows if they'll end up re-debuting or if some groups of the members will splinter off and do their own activities, but it's genuinely disappointing that this is what the members are forced to deal with as a result of BBC's selfishness. This was completely avoidable. Had they simply paid and promoted the members properly, they wouldn't be fielding now numerous allegations of the members and staff not getting paid, poor working conditions, and the only group they have managed essentially falling apart. I'm rooting for the best results for all of them, but it seems like the only choice for them as individuals and as a group is to disband. Okay, and so those are all the groups I wanted to mention in this video. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. disagree with any of my opinions and why. I'm curious to know if you guys have a different outlook, as disbandment can be pretty controversial. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!